Hello and welcome back to another episode of Inside the Asperger Studios. Well, most people would call what my next did impossible. She calls it a Tuesday. She went and got her clinical psychology degree in her 40s while raising an autistic son. This story proves that grit, love, and determination can reshape any path. So sit back, relax, and grab your favorite beverage, and let's learn more about her. See you there.
I wanna believe in the truth, but only see what I'm shown. Got the freedom to choose, but can't decide on my own. Follow what the group is thinking, bottle up my intuition till it's popping up.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Inside the Asperger Studio. Today I'm joined with Dr. Tamara Dronenburg. Welcome to the show, Dr. Tamara.
Thanks so much. I'm glad to be here.
So why don't we start off with the question I usually ask everybody. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Okay, I'm 46 years old. I live in upstate New York in a town called Muncie. I'm the mother of 3 children. I'm married for about 20 years. I'm a clinical psychologist, which I went back to school for and became at the age of 40. And I have a small private practice that I'm starting to grow.
All right, so let's start at the beginning. You told me you have a 18-year-old son who is autistic. Who is your son in your eyes? What makes him, not the label of autism, just him as a person?
You know, as a therapist and a clinician, we get very scientific, and
Mhm.
we throw around diagnoses all the time and numbers, ICD-9 codes as we call them. But when it comes to your flesh and blood, you don't want to hear ICD-9 codes. You don't want to hear labels. He's my son. He's my flesh and blood. He's somebody that I've raised from a baby, and to me, he's my sunshine.
All right, so I'd love to hear some quirks or routines that show his personality. Mhm.
um, oh, his personality is multidimensional. He loves to joke around and crack silly jokes, which we love about him. But sometimes it gets annoying, of course. Um, he's finding himself. He just, I helped him along with finding himself. He just finished high school, and I kind of like made it seem like it was his idea that he should go to the local community college to pursue an associate's degree in cybersecurity, and he thinks it's his idea, and I'm okay with that, and he's loving it. He's actually discovering that, like, when he actually likes something, he'll put all his attention and work into it, and he's doing really well in all his tests, and I've never seen his confidence be more amazing than it is now. And just as a person, he's pure
Mhm.
hearted in his heart. I mean, he's the first person when he sees someone cry to go over to them and console them. He's the first person that's willing to lend a hand when you need help. He is a little klutzy, but yet, even though he was a little klutzy when he was younger, he worked on himself, and he learned he practiced putting together furniture and other various electronic equipment from looking at the instructions, and he worked at it and he worked at it and he worked at it until it became something that he's just really good at, and that's something that amazes me about him.
That kind of reminds me of myself. I mean, I was the type of person who can look at some kind of sentence instructions and just work at it and work at it until it clicks in my head. Because, like your son and me, we're both visual thinkers. When we look at something, it makes more sense because we see a physical representation of how that thing should be. But also, when you had him go to community college, that's one of the smartest things any mother can tell a child. And I've talked about this in a book I wrote because community college can be like the introduction to what college life is like. So when he's ready to go into the university style and maybe dorm it up, he'll have an idea what the classes are. He won't have to worry about his general ed. He can focus on everything else.
Right. True. I don't think we're going to do anything in a dorm setting. I think we'll be very happy with him getting his degree in cybersecurity. But and he'll live at home until he's ready to move out on his own.
All right. Now, I think some of the world focuses so much on labels and forgets to see the person underneath. Every journey starts somewhere, and earlier in the early years can be uncharted territory. When did you first notice your son might experience the world differently?
You know what? I was an occupational therapist for 20 years before I went back to school to become a
Hmm.
psychologist. And before I was even a mother, I was working for many years in different schools throughout New York City and eventually in New Jersey, in like special education settings, but not just special education. We're talking like severely disabled children, and also some self-contained classes for like moderately, severely needs kids. And so I already had an idea of what hand flapping and difficult, even with verbal children, like the differences in the way they process and the way they answer questions and think. I already had a very, very good idea of what autism looked like.
Okay.
So once my child was born, in the beginning, from until about a year old, he developed like pretty much like any other kid. He made eye contact. He was smiley. He was playing. He had a twin sister that they noticed each other, made eye contact with each other, and eventually played together. But it was about after a year old that we started to notice changes that weren't happening in a developmental fashion that we would have expected. That was happening for his sister. He wasn't really talking. The eye contact went down. Um, he had no sense of danger, that his sister did have, and other babies that I've seen did have. And then just as he got older, we wanted to send him to a regular preschool classroom, and we tried to send him to a daycare center with a preschool classroom, and he ended up unfortunately having to leave because of an incident where he didn't know how to deal with the stress of it, and he bit another kid. But he was 3, and they weren't very understanding about it. So after the age of 3, we really knew that we needed to get him tested and consider alternate placements for him.
And when you finally got his diagnosis, what was the moment like emotionally for you?
I kind of knew. I took him when he was 4 years old to a developmental pediatrician, and I pretty much was going there with the hope that he would get the diagnosis because we couldn't continue to get the special ed funding without it. So when I went in there and she tested him, she pretty much told me what I already knew.
All right. I know that moment can feel like relief, grief, clarity all at once. It's such a pivotal point.
Yeah.
Looking, go on.
No, just saying, yeah, agreeing with
Okay.
you.
Looking back now, is there anything you understand differently than you did then?
I guess the only thing I could say is I understand how the parents feel because I went through it too. And I
Mm-hmm.
was lucky because my child came out very high functioning. He has a
Hmm.
potential to have an independent life. He does. So I can see it through the lens of parents who are not understanding what's going on with their child, and all the grief and also the embarrassment and the other complex emotions that come up when your child is different from other people's children, what you call typically developing. So that's really all I have on that.
All right. So parenting an autistic child often means learning to see the world through their eyes. How did you learn to communicate in the ways that really connected with your son?
I think I stopped focusing on worrying about connecting with him through talking, because
Hmm.
verbal processing when he was younger wasn't his strength. Now it is. You could have a really
Oh
good
yeah.
conversation with him. I think I just focused on learning from him while doing what I call quote unquote teaching him. I was learning more from him than he was learning from me, and just loving him the way he was, loving him for what he is, and not focusing on my dreams and what I had dreamed about my child. I mean, we have these dreams and visions about what we want for our children from the day they're born, but we're kind of babysitters for our children, really. We don't know what they're going to become. We don't know what their jobs are in this world. And we need to love them and raise them and accept them just the way they are and not focus on what our vision is for them, but rather what should be our ability to guide them in the direction that they should go.
Now, were there times you had to rethink what normal even meant to your fa for your family?
Yes. I'll tell you why. Because I have two other children, and they were both diagnosed with ADHD.
Oh,
And as my children were diagnosed with ADHD, and all the pieces of the puzzle came together, all the behaviors, I started to realize something about myself. I looked back on myself and my
oh yeah.
life, and I was lucky. I was, blessed with a good brain,
Hmm.
and good people in my life and good support system. And I realized, though, that the pieces of the puzzle came together that I myself always had ADHD
Oh yeah.
and just didn't know it.
I mean, that seems to be the ongoing theme with every parent I've talked to almost throughout my years of doing the show is the parent when the parent takes their child to get diagnosed and they're sitting there and the doctor's going over all the list of things, all the traits that their child has, and the parent's just thinking, check, check,
Yeah,
check,
exactly.
check. And they turn to the doctor and they go, Doc, I have all the same traits he does. Do you think I have it? Or and they're like, yeah, you might as well get yourself tested as well. So finding out that you when discovering that you had ADHD, did that kind of change your whole view of how I'm gonna raise my kids knowing that I am kind of like them and I kind of see how they think and how they feel and how they see the world?
Absolutely, absolutely. I saw that I was glad that I didn't get diagnosed with it when I was young, because it may have changed the way I saw myself, and maybe I would have like become almost like not believing in myself and not pushing myself to succeed. And I did succeed because I pushed myself and believed in myself. So I'm glad that I didn't know until much later, and
Mhm.
it made me focus on my child's strengths and what he can do, and noticing what his abilities are and pushing him in the direction of those abilities, but not pushing him to the point that like I was trying to make him in my image, but rather to help him achieve who he could be and be more accepting of him.
I mean, that seems to be the thing is when you're a parent, you don't want to focus on yourself in what you and put your own issues on them. You want to focus on them and watch them thrive, watch them become into their own. And I guess as a parent, you're raising three kids on both sides of the spectrum. Your house has got to be a whirlwind of craziness with your two kids of ADHD constantly, I'm guessing, leaving doors open and you reminding them, please close the doors. Or your son who's got ADHD and finding his love of something that he's all of a sudden got this passion for.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Now, I love the idea of embracing different rather than trying to fit into someone else's box. Did you have that moment when it just really clicked for you?
Yeah, when I got their diagnoses. Once the diagnoses came and I realized, oh boy, I have a different package than I was expecting, then I decided I really can't, I'm not going to conform to the society. I can't raise these children in the quote unquote conforming way. My children are not going to have the same, social opportunities or the same socialization popularity that I would have wanted them to have. And they're not going to be what I originally pictured, and they're not going to be fitting into the norm, and our family is going to not be not normative, and we're just going to have to learn to deal with that, and rather than fight it, work with it and embrace it and be proud. Why not?
I mean, that is so true. I mean, when you're a parent, you want to be proud of your child and all his accomplishments. Now, your son is 18, which is a huge milestone. What has been the most surprising part of parenting a teen on the spectrum?
I'm just amazed at how high functioning he is. I didn't
Mhm.
expect that he was going to be this high functioning. People when their child first gets diagnosed when they're very very young, they look at their child and they think, "Oh man, This child's going to be living with me for the rest of his life. This child's never going to learn how to talk. This child's never
Mhm.
going to have friends. You don't know. You don't know. He surprised me and surprised me and surprised me of how capable he is.
I
And
mean,
I'm very grateful
yeah, I
for where
mean,
he's at.
my mother can say, my mom can probably say the same thing about me. We didn't find out I was autistic until my late 20s when family members who were psychologists and psychiatrists, my general doctor, a family lawyer, all just told my parents, Reed has got traits of high functioning autism. And at that point, it's just like a light bulb went off in their head. And it's like, this explains so much of his personality and why he's done such and such and such things. But as time went on, they got to see me grow and come into my own, just like you were watching your son come into his own and find his own passion. Now, can you share a moment when you asserted independence that made you proud?
Oh, so many. um, yeah, I would say that in like the last year or two, when I would ask him to do something like maybe go hang out with this kid. He might be a good friend for you. He would say, "I'm good."
Yeah.
I knew I had to scale back and let him be. It's not my business. It's not my business who he wants to be friends with, and it's not my job to push people on him.
Yeah.
He's his own person.
I mean, it was kind of like when I went away for school, my parents were both, my dad was still living at the time, and my parents told us, like, you need to be careful, don't do this, don't do that. And then they realized we need to let him be on his own. And I didn't think I was going to make any friends when I was there. I thought I was just going to be the shy kid, never talking to anybody. But as I got into my own and I got settled, I started making friends. And I'm pretty sure that's what you're saying with your son is he's trying to figure out who he can talk to and become his friend and it's probably someone that shares his common interest.
Yeah, he's making friends, and I'm very proud of him.
Now, how do you balance giving him freedom while offering guidance?
Well, at this stage, I offer ideas, I offer
Hmm.
insights, I offer to help him with something, and if he says no, then I back off because he's 18, he's his own person, and he has to figure out where his wings are and help himself fly on his own. It's you and also it's best to offer and being open to being a support and providing guidance to your child, but also letting them learn from their mistakes. I think as parents and as a society, we're so bent on like wanting to direct and direct and direct and make everybody go in the direction we want them to go. But people have to learn from their own failures. If we don't let people learn from their own failures, how are they going to grow and develop and become wiser?
I hear you on that because I can tell you for my parents, I think the biggest thing for them to adapt to with me is the fact that I chose to go away to college, not just out of state. I chose out of country.
Hmm.
I went for my master's degree in England, and it's like my mother was proud of that moment that I decided to do this. My father, who's much more of a realist, is like, we knew if I told him early on, he like, Reed, are you sure you want to do this? Are you sure you can handle this? So we waited until I got the acceptance letters to tell him. And then the moment came when I left, when they took me to the airport, in which I had my first meltdown there. Um, the moment I knew for my father it was hard because every Skype call we had together, his first things to tell me are you happy you went?
Wow.
And then when I came back from school, I asked my mom, I'm like, why did Dad keep asking me this? He's like, he was worried about you. He was afraid you'd be alone, you wouldn't make any friends, and that you'd be depressed. I'm like, he didn't need to be that. I made friends, I made my own. And then no, the one thing they were worried about is I told them I would eat alone once a week, and they're like, and they were worried that I was lonely. And I'm like, no, it was just time for me to reflect on
Hmm.
everything that I have accomplished.
Hmm.
And I'm sure you see that with your son at times where like he's reflecting on his life and you see that in his eyes and you want to ask what's going through your head.
He's an open book with me. He'll tell me what's going on when he wants to. When he wants to. But I'm just so proud of him that he's just becoming his own person and figuring things out on his own, and not afraid to make mistakes and not afraid to fail, because he knows he has us to back him up
Hmm.
and to soften the blow. And he's he has reached milestones I just never could have known 18 years ago he would have reached.
I mean, that's one of the things I wrote about in my book, and that's actually what that is the theme of my book, stepping out of your comfort zone. And I see your son doing that. And as someone who's autistic himself, I am happy for him. I mean, that's what I want to see most those of us who are high functioning do. Step out of that zone of comfort because the real stories, the real everything starts the minute you step outside.
Yep.
Now, those moments often carry both joy and little fear, but they transform. School and community can support and make a huge difference. How did school go for him, and where were their supports helped him thrive?
Um, so when he got, I believe, into kindergarten or first grade, I can't remember which, we there's a wonderful, wonderful
Mhm.
program in the district that we live in, that provided a special program called Social Communications
Mm.
Classroom. And
Okay.
basically, it was for kids, either on the very low functioning or very high functioning. He was the highest functioning in the class. But the teacher was amazing. He was there for about 2 or 3 years, and he responded very, very well to her. And he learned functional language, he learned motor skills, and he really succeeded there. And then after that, we put him into a private special
Mm.
education program and that teacher was also amazing. And I think that, like, between those years of doing that, he really, really flew and took off. And I homeschool him from fifth to eighth
Mhm.
grade.
I can
You know,
honestly say that for a school, what matters the most is the teachers. If you, and I'm pretty sure you agree with that because when you have a teacher that totally understands how to deal with a neurodivergent child and knows how to work with them, it makes all the difference in the world.
mhm.
Now, what have you learned about advocating for them?
Oh my goodness! If I didn't have the education and career experience I had, I don't think I could have advocated for him the same. My husband is a physician,
Mm-hmm.
but he didn't have the knowledge that I had from as far as from the psychological and educational point of view. I'm the one who I brought up the idea of the developmental pediatrician. He backed me up, and then we did that. And I also did a lot of other advocacy work, talking with the teachers and discussing his curriculum, among other things. So it was advocacy all along, because if you don't push in this world to get your child the extra help they need, you're not going to get it.
Now, did you talk to your son when he went into college about, listen, you need to advocate for yourself. You need to let people know, hey, I need extra help. I need this because I'm autistic, so they can give him the support he needs?
100%, except that
Mm.
I didn't discuss it about from the point of view as because you're autistic, because he gets very defensive, and I
Oh.
understand. He doesn't like that label. He's like, in fact, when I brought it up to him a few weeks ago, he was like, I'm that? I didn't know that I was that. We never hid it from him. He just,
Mhm.
and I think it's a good thing. I think it's healthy. He knows, but on the other hand, he just wants to be treated normally, and he wants to
Yeah.
behave in a normal fashion. And he has the ability to speak up for himself, and I'm very proud of
Good.
him.
Now, I know critical support and how critical support can be. It really changes the trajectory. That's amazing how much families grow and learn through their experiences. Um, Being autistic, I know how powerful it is when someone truly sees you for who you are. Have there been moments where you felt you were seeing the world through your son's eyes?
Oh yeah, plenty of them, especially when I was feeling that the feelings of sadness and grief in the beginning, when I was first accepting the whole reality.
Mhm. Now, how has your relationship with him shaped your understanding of neurodiversity?
Um, I mean, I worked a lot with neurodiverse children for many, many years when I was an OT. I'm now also doing, as in the capacity of a psychologist, I just started doing diagnostic autism assessments.
Hmm.
So, I mean, it just shaped the direction of my life and where I went.
Now, I gotta ask you, since you are doing diagnostic assessments, have you had parents come in and then as you're going through the assessments, have you had parents just turn to you and go, "Oh my God, I think I'm autistic as well, or I have ADHD as well"?
Not yet. That hasn't happened. I'm very new. I just
All
started
right.
the process, but I anticipate it probably will happen.
I can tell you, being someone who was diagnosed late, the assessment I never realized was so long.
Yeah.
And I didn't and at the time I couldn't comprehend why they wanted to divide up the parent and the child. And then later it was explained to me that they want an unbiased reaction from both. They want the
Mhm.
child's responses on himself, not what from what his parent thinks, but from what he thinks of himself and where he thinks he or she needs the support.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm thankful that I got diagnosed, but parents and children can teach each other so much. Have you noticed that too?
Oh yeah, absolutely. We learn more from the children than they learn from us, I believe. They're here. They're our teachers.
Hmm. I mean, I've seen so many parents watching their kids and watching them grow, and then it's just like they learn so much from their child, especially if it's an autistic child who has a special interest and that child just wants to share it with the parent.
Yeah.
Now, 18 is the start of a new chapter. What's adulthood look like for him right now?
Um, he's actually really putting together his own path, except for the fact that I encouraged him to go into this program at the school. He's doing his work by himself, and he's
Good.
experiencing what it's like to not do an assignment correctly and not get a good grade, and be okay with it and learn from it. And he also is working part time.
Oh,
So yeah, he works, and it's his job. He set up by himself. A neighbor owns a very big store in our area, and a few summers ago, he asked this neighbor if he could work there, stocking shelves. And the neighbor gave him the job, and they're very flexible with him. So he's amazing. I don't know what to say other than just he's determining his own path. I'm not doing anything for him. Occasionally, I'll give him a ride to work if he doesn't have the ability to go to work. He does want to learn how to drive, but he realizes himself that he's not ready yet. So but for the most part, he is so determined and so independent minded, and whatever support he needs, financial, we're there to give it. He'll ask for it, but he's pretty much determined his own schedule and his own balance
mhm.
at this point, and he's just amazing.
Tell him don't rush for getting his license because it took me until I was 30 to get mine.
Wow.
I went for driver's ed in high school and I had my permit and everything, but I let it lapse. And then I remember my parents were the ones that said, "Listen, you're gonna need your freedom. Why don't you go get your license?" And I remember going from my mom would take me out driving and everything, and then I went for my driver's test and I passed, and my parents were so excited because now I was driving a lot, and then come home from school, and my parents moved from the north side to the south side, and I just gave up driving because the neighborhood here is a little bit more crazy. But my mom is like, I will still want you to drive. So at this hand, my youngest nephew, volunteered to every so often to take me out driving.
Wonderful.
So tell him, don't rush it. There's no need. But eventually he's going to need it because when you get that freedom, a flexibility of being able to say, hey, I'm going to go out for a drive somewhere, it's freeing.
Hmm.
Now, what are your hopes and your dreams for him?
some of my dreams for him is that he's able to get a good job using
Hmm.
his professional knowledge and be able to support himself, not live a lavish life, and he doesn't have to. I know nowadays having a mansion or 3 mansions and vacations in Maui and other fancy sites is what's really considered the norm, although most of us are in the middle class and we don't live that way.
Hmm.
But just to get married, maybe have a couple of kids and be a father and be able to support himself and his wife and just be happy and healthy. That's really all I want for him.
Right. Has he shown interest in maybe dating somewhere along the line?
Oh yeah, yeah, he wants to.
Tell him I have talked with many people who are autistic, who are married, and the one thing you will find is a lot of times you are drawn to somebody on the neurodivergent spectrum. Either they have ADHD or they have ASD. And believe me, a lot of the married people I've talked to, either their husband's got ADHD or they have ASD, and one or the other, and their kids wind up having it. So he's going to be drawn to somebody who is like him. And
Yeah.
that's the most important thing is you want somebody who understands your quirks, your traits, and everything else.
Hmm. Yep.
Now, it's inspiring to hear parents envision a future while respecting their child's autonomy. The future is full of potential, even when it feels uncertain. Every journey leaves lessons behind. Looking back, what advice would you give your younger self?
Um, accept myself the way I am. Don't beat myself up for not being able to accomplish everything that I originally thought, because what you think is what you are supposed to be
Hmm.
is not necessarily the case. Embrace the moment,
Hmm.
embrace what you're seeing in front of you. Don't be so hard on yourself, and definitely be kind to others and give them the benefit of the doubt as well.
Now, what do you want other parents of autistic children to know about love, patience, and understanding?
They should treat their child as they would treat a quote unquote typically developing child. They should notice their child's likes and dislikes. They should pay attention to their child's strengths and encourage and push their child in the direction of what the child seems to be drawn to and good at.
I mean, that's such an important thing. I've read and I've heard stories about parents pushing their child towards something they don't like, and it just backfires on them. It's like that with food. And I've had a huge conversation with a psychologist about that, who helps kids who have eating disorders. And she's like, the problem is parents try to put their own teachings of what they were taught when they were young onto their own kids, and it just backfires and it makes situations 10 times worse.
Yeah.
Now, and what has your son taught you about life, empathy, and seeing the world differently?
He's taught me that as much as I might think that I understand and know and get other people, especially because I'm a psychologist, I don't. We don't really know each other's inner world. The only way to know a person's inner world is what they let you see or what they communicate to you. And that takes a lot of time and a
Mhm.
lot of patience and a lot of experiences with that person over the course of a long period to really start to really get to know what's going on in their inner world.
Now, these lessons really stick with us long after the early years. Thank you so much for sharing your story so openly. Before we wrap up, what would you want to say to families just starting their journey with autism?
I would say don't be scared.
Hmm.
This is a special soul, a very unique special soul that was entrusted to you by the Creator. I am a religious person. I do believe in God, and I don't believe that there's any mistakes that God makes. And it's a present waiting to be unwrapped. Every day you're going to unwrap it a little bit more, and it's
Hmm.
going to surprise you and make you proud and make you happy and teach you lessons and help you grow into the most amazing version of yourself. That's why it's a present.
All right. And your honesty and your insight are invaluable. I hope anyone listening takes away there's beauty, growth, and understanding in this journey every step of the way. I'm Reed Miles. That was Dr. Tamar Strombrand, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you, Dr. Tamar.
My pleasure.